going to move on to Aaron Phillips for our next question.
The city has spent a lot of money evaluating what to do with downtown library. As mayor, what would you do to improve it?
And we're going to start with Mr. Melendrez.
Thank you for that question. I had indicated in a previous forum that the library should have been one of the very first projects that were started. And I think there was an awful lot of discussion. At this point, if we are going to move forward, and I believe that we should move forward with this library, that the city residents need to be absolutely clear of what our steps are, because it could be a very significant financial investment, the $20 million. So we need to be absolutely sure that we are ready to go and move forward. Obviously, the money that we would need to have would have to go up for a vote and ask the residents. But I think for us, as a council or as mayor, we need to move this forward and get it done, but be absolutely frank and clear with our community.
Thank you, Mr. Melendrez. We're going to move to Ms. Petrozello.
We need to be clear that the funding for the library was approved in 2005 with the funding for the Renaissance, and it didn't happen. 3 of your current and 1 of your former city councilmen were on the city council, and it didn't happen. We don't have $20 million in our general fund, so this is what they're going to do. They're going to put it to a bond measure, and they're going to let you decide whether libraries are important. And of course, we all believe that libraries are important. Libraries are part of diversity. Libraries allow people access to information. They allow people access to education. So of course most people would vote for the library. Libraries reflect who we are as a community, and to not do this library is incomprehensible. It should have been the first thing done, not the last.
Mr. Atkinson.
Thank you. When I left the council, there was some conceptual plans in place and the funding in place to build the library. And I honestly believe that if there wasn't a council change at that time, you would have seen a library there constructed about 4 years ago. What had occurred is there was not consensus on the design of the library. To date, there still isn't a consensus on the design of the library. And what had happened is it appears to have gotten committed to death, and the Renaissance program has come and gone, and the options that are available to construct the library are limited, and it's left with basically remodeling the library. We've done a lot with the libraries throughout. It's a reflection of who we are. We need to do that with the downtown library. We have limited incomes. There's still non-consensus on the facade of the library. It's been there for 50 years. I think we need to leave it there. We got some budget issues with the city. We need to do what it takes to bring it up to par with the rest of the libraries and not change the facade.
Mr. Atkinson, your charge about the council change is pretty strong, so I want you to expand on what you mean when you say if there had not been that council change, the future of the library would have been different.
Well, I think because there wasn't consensus on what people wanted in a library, and there still isn't consensus today, that there was a leadership taken at the city council level, that we have a plan in place, we got the funding, this is the library we're going to construct. And basically, when that council changed, they wanted to revisit the options on the library, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but when you revisited that, what it did is set things in motion again to committee it. They had a blue ribbon committee to come up with some options.
But there still had been a majority of 4 members that were there when you were there. So we're still trying to get a sense, what exactly happened in your mind? It was a statement you made, and it's an important one.
Well, what I'll say is we have the ward system, and everybody is respective of the ward system. So in their effort, I think they took the lead of the council person that represents that area at the time and moved it forward to basically have some more committees to get some input on the library.
So would you point specifically to the council member serving that specific ward?
Yes, I would.
Would that council member like to respond?
Actually, a council member would like to respond. Thank you. I think there are a couple of important things to realize. When the Renaissance was first proposed, when I was not yet on the council, there were two primary funding sources for the library and for the renovation of the Fox Theater. There was hard money that was originally set for the library and the museum, and there was soft money coming from proposed sales of excess city land that was targeted for the Fox. Before I was elected, those were switched, so the soft money was on the library. There was a proposal to build a joint facility to serve the main library and the Metropolitan Museum. It was going to be built in front of the main library. It was going to go all the way out to the sidewalk. It was going to occupy the space where the Chinese pavilion currently sits. It was not well vetted in the community, and library users thought the museum got too much of the new space. Museum proponents thought the library got too much of the new space. It was not well thought out, and I'm proud that I helped kill that.
Mr. Atkinson, any thoughts?
Thanks. No, I honestly believe that the library would have been built, there would have been a funding source, and we would have seen it erected. There was it was a high priority item at the time. There was a lot of discussion on it, and I think the leadership would have moved it forward.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
When I was running for council in Ward 3, my phrase was, you can't have a renaissance without books. And so I set out to finding a new space for the Marcy Branch Library, and we did that. And in looking at the downtown library, I would say we give it the Marcy treatment, which is to give it some more natural light. It's set in a park, Marcy is, and I would say we need to make it more inviting to families and students. And so the front area should be a park, should have a water feature for kids, should be a space that you could do programming outside and not just inside. I would say we need to jazz up the inside to attract the college students and the high school students there and give them some resources that encourages them to come down and use that space. We need to protect the collections. We have some important collections there, including the Veterans Oral History Project. And with the Measure I campaign getting 85% approval rating, I think that the community loves libraries and will also do something here when it comes to financing the downtown library.
Mr. Benavides.
I too was under the impression that the downtown library was a top priority during our Seizing Your Destiny Renaissance program. But yet, it still needs fixing. Don't look at me as the person to blame for that happening. But you can look at this podiums, or these podiums. It's important, I agree. We need to figure out a way to cover the costs that were ignored by current council. And that is something that I bring experience to this table. When funding sources dry up, for whatever reason, that the prudent thing is to seek other funding sources rather than coming to you as citizens, digging in your pockets, your wallets, your purses to fund these items. And that's what's going to occur.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Chavez.
I agree with my colleague here. The Renaissance should have taken care of it, but it didn't, did it? Even they went to you again and asked for Measure I to be passed, and you did because you want your library and you're thinking of your children, which you should be. The other thing too is we still haven't paid our first payment of redevelopment. Okay, if we could pay that, and the second increment that we have to pay, if we can pay that, which we already know we're going to be 1.9 million short. Okay, so if we have any money that we can reserve it, go through a bid process, see if we can get the library renovated. If we can't, then we got to find other sources of revenue. And hopefully we won't have to go to the voters to do that again.
Anything else to add, Mr. Gardner?
I'd actually like to respond to the original question, if I could. The question was, as mayor, what would you do about the library? And we have to remember that the mayor is a leader, the mayor is not a dictator, the mayor can't make anything happen. I think we have a pretty fair process that is going forward now where There were a series of public hearings to talk about what should the outside of the building look like. There are going to be a series of public meetings coming to talk about what should be inside the library. What should it look like? What areas should be devoted? How much space to different programs? What programs do we need to have? And that needs to happen. We do have to continue to look for funding, and there is a group that is doing that as part of this process. I don't have a great deal of faith that they're going to discover anything, unless they're buying lottery tickets, that will provide very much money toward the library. In reality, I think we are looking at another ballot measure to ask you whether you want a parcel tax that would fund a bond that would build the library.
Oh, if we only had more time. We're going to move.